In this episode, we'll visit two of the forts that formed Washington State's Triangle of Fire, along with nearby Fort Ebey. Built to defend the entrance to the inland waters of the Salish Sea, these concrete fortresses stood watch for an enemy that never came. Today, most of the cannons are gone. Instead, the echoes belong to crashing waves, seabirds, and children laughing as they disappear into the dark labyrinth of tunnels. Before we get underway, I'd like to thank David McCloskey for these wonderful maps of the Cascadia bioregion. David passed away just last month, and although I only exchanged a few messages with him, I came away with the impression of someone who possessed a remarkable depth of knowledge. His work helped define Cascadia, not by political borders, but by watersheds and ecosystems. I'm grateful for both his contributions and his encouragement as I began documenting this remarkable region. I hope to push many a pen into the contours of this map, so let's journey on. Military history isn't usually what draws me outdoors, but these forts feel like they belong in the story of Cascadia. Not because of what happened here, but because of where they were built. These areas offer some fantastic coastal walks and high bluff wanderings. First, we'll be picking up my mother over on Whidbey Island and head south to the Port Townsend Keystone Ferry. We'll walk across and make our way through downtown, through the old Victorian neighborhoods that sit high on the bluff, and down along the narrow shoreline out to Fort Worden State Park, which sits on Admiralty Inlet at the entrance to the Salish Sea.
He's a 4-year-old baby.
We made a brief stop at Pendamore Artisan Bakery for some sweet and savory treats. They had some gluten-free options for wild fox, and all the charm you'd expect for a seaside town joint. We were pleased to see some early blooms after a long dark winter, and it was fun to wander the side streets featuring some beautiful Victorian houses. Our path brought us through Chetsamoka Park and down to the beach that would take us the rest of the way to Fort Worden. It's easy to forget that this peaceful shoreline was once one of the most heavily defended places in the Pacific Northwest. Between 1898 and 1917, Fort Worden grew into a military installation with 12 gun batteries overlooking Admiralty Inlet. Fort Worden operated as an active Army post until 1953. After the military left, the fort found a second life as a youth detention center, and eventually the state park we know today. With the weather getting a little thicker, we headed back towards Port Townsend in search of a late lunch. We'd pass by some of the old Victorian officers' homes on the way, which would again wind us through the residential neighborhoods. There was a nice trail for part of the walk, which wound itself through a little green belt between houses. After a nourishing lunch at the Owl Spirit Cafe, it was a short walk back to the ferry landing. All said, we did about 7 miles of walking round trip from the ferry dock. We made a quick stop at Whidbey Provisions in Coopville on the way home. They carry a nice mix of homemade deli items and feature many local artisan products, including this make-at-home pizza and a nettle beer. The weather thickened even more on the drive home. We'd call it a day and save exploring Fort Casey and Fort Ebey for another day.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a towel for her? Yeah, she's in the house. I'll get it. Even we're going to get you dinner.
Okay, well, it's many days, many months after that first segment. It is now in July, so weather's much better. I'm gonna head over to Fort Ebey, Ebey's Landing, and Fort Casey. And on the way, I'm gonna stop at a beach, meet my mom at a beach, and we're gonna do a little seaweed harvesting for, I'm trying to collect ingredients right now for my Cascadia bio bar. So I'm gonna dry and make a kombu powder for that. It's also gonna be a great week for salal berries. Salal berries are they are perfect in some areas. So probably Saturday I'll be picking salal berries for that same recipe. It's gonna be a gorgeous day. It's right about 7 o'clock now. So we'll, let's take a little drive. Well, I think we found enough. I don't need much. Nice little selection of bull kelp, Turkish towel, and sea lettuce. Tide's coming in. Quiet day out here on the beach, but yeah, we're gonna explore a little bit more down here, and then we can go for a hike. So my mom is heading back home. I'm gonna proceed to hike up this little coastal trail. There's some small little bunker areas up here that we'll check out, and then head to the main bunker. It's been a while since I've been out here, so it's gonna be fun to re-explore. Fort Ebey sits on 651 acres, and in addition to its historical sites, boasts many miles of trails and camping. This fort isn't as old as Casey and Worden, being built in 1942 to bolster our coastal defenses during World War II. It would appear I have the park to myself today. Well, not entirely. It's actually nice they illuminated all these rooms, because as a kid that wasn't the case. You just wander these dark caverns with a little flashlight. Ooh. That goes out the side of this one. Yeah, so this was more the experience I was used to. The fort featured 2 shielded guns that fired 108-pound projectiles 15 miles. Like the other forts, those guns never fired in combat and were scrapped after the war. The state eventually acquired the fort, and in 1981 opened as a state park. You could see where the heavy artillery used to be mounted. Well, that was Fort Ebey, and we are going to head to Fort Casey next. It's not too far south from here, and it's a pretty drive. Fort Casey sits on just shy of 1,000 acres. Like the other two forts, it features a great stretch of beach and camping next to the state ferry. I've been visiting this fort since I was a kid. Back then, the dark maze of tunnels felt endless, and just dangerous enough to make every trip memorable, especially when your older brother might be hiding somewhere in the shadows. Even now, the cool, damp air inside these concrete passages instantly takes me back. So that was Fort Casey, and still it's late morning, and I have time, so I'm actually going to stop and hike Ebey's Landing, which is in between Fort Casey and Fort Ebey, just a little ways down the road, and the tide's still out enough. It's a loop trail, with part of the loop being on the beach itself. I think it's about 3.5 miles, so it will probably take me about an hour or so. We'll do that, and we'll pick up some lunch in Oak Harbor. I'll try to cut my earbuds so you can hear me. We're getting down to the little lagoon area. Probably can't see them, but the trail loops around and skirts the very top of that bluff there. I can see some folks way up there high, so I'm going to be taking this down to the end and then making a climb up that bluff. Ebey's Landing is part of a 17,572-acre historic reserve, a mix of private land, preserves, active farms, and even the nearby town of Coupeville. While a lot of the historical notes focus on early pioneers, for 12,000 years before that, this preserve, as well as the forts we visited earlier, was home to the Lower Skagit people. This landscape provided abundant shellfish, fish, game, and edible plants, making it one of the richest environments in the Salish Sea. I decided to take a little side quest over to see some old pioneer buildings. It's interesting how a landscape can change without ever really losing its identity. Shaped by the glaciers of the last ice age, these bluffs and prairies have endured as Coast Salish communities, pioneers, soldiers, families, hikers, and generations of travelers bound for the ferry have all passed through. The forts may have been built for war, but today they become places of curiosity, of recreation, and quiet reflection. Looks like we got a little weather coming in off the water. Hasn't really rained in a while. That'd be refreshing. Let's see if I can get back to the English bird before it starts though. The weather system I watched moving in from the Olympic Peninsula was packing quite a punch. Although I only got a few raindrops on the drive home, conditions deteriorated rapidly over the San Juan Islands. That afternoon, a Kenmore Air float plane carrying 10 passengers and a pilot crashed while attempting an emergency landing near Susha Island after the pilot diverted around a thunderstorm. Everyone survived thanks to the remarkable rescue efforts by nearby boaters, the Coast Guard, and first responders. Watching the storm roll in serves as a reminder of just how quickly conditions can change here along the Salish Sea. Thanks for journeying along with me on this episode, and I hope it left you with a taste of salty sea air. Consider subscribing to visit more of the Cascadia bioregion, and visit my website to dig deeper. We'll see you on the next episode.